And now, from Shenango Valley Studios, coming to you live, one of the most talked about shows in the Shenango Valley, because it's the only show in the Shenango Valley. Your host, Sean Zipai with The Zip Code. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We got a fantastic show for you guys tonight. Thank you for stopping in with us on the Zip Code. Really appreciate your time. We're going to have fun with this one tonight. John Kolb, a four-time Super Bowl champion, on the Zip Code tonight for you guys, for your viewing pleasure. You know, tonight I even wore some yellow pants here, so how about that? Steelers all the way, baby. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let's get right to it. I am not going to make John wait. We got a lot to discuss with him. We got a lot of entertaining stories. I've known John a long time, and this one is going to be a fun one. So let's get this show on the road. Thank you to Andrew Gary for that introduction. Thank you to Derek Work for all he does for the show, and our producer, who you'll find. We will see. So, without further ado, let's bring John in here. There he is.
How you doing? Is that good? All right.
There he is, John Kolb.
Hey.
John, thank you for coming on the Zip Code, man. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, you know, this can be embarrassing for you because I remember when you guys were little boys. And so I can ask you as many questions as you can ask me.
Yeah, this is actually an interview of John Kolb. He's taking over the Zip Code. He's going to be interviewing Sean Zipai for the night.
That's right. Go. Yeah. I've got my questions written down too. Don't think I don't.
Uh-oh. So I just want to let you know, John, before the show, I was writing out a bunch of questions, and I was listening to a bunch of Sam Spence NFL Films music, because when you're interviewing a guy from the 70s, I feel like you got to listen to those songs. It's like da 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 da, and all those great, amazing songs. So I'm ready for this, John.
Yeah, doesn't that get your? I mean, it makes it snow in July. That music does, doesn't it? Because every game, every highlight film, you saw the snow coming down and Franco carrying the ball and splashing in the snow, and it was, it was a different era then.
Love it. I love it. So, folks, if you're tuning into the Zip Code, we got John Kolb on with us tonight. If you could like or follow, if you could like this this interview right now, it'll show up on the side, and you can follow our page at _Zip Code, and then also you can follow Adventures in Training with a Purpose, which is a nonprofit that John started as well. You can follow that on Instagram as well. So we'd like you guys to do that. John, just to give you a rundown of tonight, we're going to go over a lot of football things. We're going to have people have any questions. If you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We will try to get to them as best as possible. We have had a lot of questions from viewers that have already sent us, so we'll get to that. And then we will get to kind of what you're doing now, John. We'll get to Adventures in Training, and we'll get to my favorite part of the show, where I get to ask you a bunch of random questions, and you have to answer them.
No, okay.
So let's start with this. We have John Kolb, who is from Oklahoma, was an all-state football player at Owasso High School, and then goes to Oklahoma State, becomes an All-American in 1968, then gets drafted with the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1969, plays with them until 1981. And let's start with this, John. Who introduced you to the game of football?
I remember, I tell people that, and my wife, and kids get tired of hearing this, but it's pretty true. If you didn't become a football player, by the time you were in the 9th grade, your parents would put you up for adoption and find a kid that could play. Because there were no pro teams. Obviously, you had Dallas and St. Louis, but in Oklahoma, there was University of Oklahoma. And they'd won 47 football games in a row, still a record. Going back to the 50s, it's still a record. And they got beat 7-0 by Notre Dame when I was about in the 4th grade, and the whole state went into mourning. It was I mean, the state went into mourning. They asked Bud Wilkinson what the definition of football was. And I remember he said, football is 40 young men running around on a football field, desperately in need of rest, being watched by 40,000 people in the stands, desperately in need of exercise. But the people that watch, the people in Oklahoma, it's just that they, everybody goes to a Baptist church. Everybody pretty much politically is conservative, but they divide, the state divides on Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and then there's a clash. And it's really kind of a cool thing. High school football, we had 67 kids in our graduating class, but we would have 5,000 people at a football game. So I grew up in that atmosphere, and what a way to grow up. And then you come to Pittsburgh and it just continues. I tell people I didn't get a real job till I was 45. How many people get to say that? Your dad, he's a horticultural guy. He's my guy I call about if I can't get a plant to grow. But that's pretty close to a real job.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to my pops. So
yeah, I wanted to get that one in. So I marked that down on my list.
Yeah, check that one off.
Yeah.
So then you eventually go to Oklahoma State. And why Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma?
The truth is Oklahoma didn't offer me a scholarship. And, so I was kind of hurt my pride a little bit. But I grew late. In the ninth grade, I didn't even get a football uniform. My dad's was 5'7". And so at the time, I got, I was offered scholarships to several colleges, but not Oklahoma. I think a lot of times guys make decisions maybe not well thought out. One of my high school heroes went to Oklahoma State. And so I wanted to go to Oklahoma State. I went to a wrestling match. My kids have all wrestled. And Oklahoma State wrestled University of Oklahoma. And both teams had Olympic wrestlers on their team. They had 8,000 people for that wrestling match. And so, again, I saw that enthusiasm for sports, and so I couldn't wait for when I graduated from high school to get there and move on to the next opportunity.
Yeah. So at Oklahoma State, you play center, and then
Yes.
you're drafted then in 1969 by the Steelers. When did they tell you that they wanted to move you from center to left tackle?
5 minutes before practice. Chuck, no, we could sit here and spend the whole hour talking about things. I played center my rookie year, and kind of what we were talking about a while ago. I remember my rookie year, Ray Nitschke. Probably most of your people don't know who Ray Nitschke is, but Green Bay Packers were the Pittsburgh Steelers of that era. Ray Nitschke and Bart Starr, and so my rookie year, we're playing in Pitt Stadium. Three River Stadium wasn't even built yet. And I line up, and there's Ray Nitschke, no teeth. He had fewer teeth than Jack Lambert did. And we called 15 straight, and I don't even move. I snap the ball and watch Ray Nitschke just blow up our fullback because I'm playing against Ray Nitschke, somebody that he was my hero in the fifth grade. And I'm getting to do this. And so it just the whole – sometimes I think about it. This is – if I were to write my own script, I couldn't have written it really any more exciting for the way things turned out.
Now, let me ask you this as an interesting fact. So nowadays, people have a huge draft party, and a lot of people go to wherever the draft is. What was John Kolb doing in 1969 when he got drafted? And how did you hear that you got drafted? Was it a phone call?
Well, you must have been talking to Caleb or something. So the leading up to the draft, Dallas and Baltimore and New Orleans and Denver were calling me almost every day. And they were telling me, you got to stay by the phone. We're going to take you early and that kind of stuff. I did not realize that the first round of the draft takes like 3 hours. even involved when I was involved in the draft later on. It goes so slowly. And so the day before the draft, I got a form letter that wasn't even signed by the Steelers. And I read the first, it said, "Dear player." Didn't even have my name on it. So people would say, "Where do you think you're going?" And I say, "All I know is I won't be going to Pittsburgh." And so the draft, I thought it was like choosing up sides in the backyard. You know, you got 20 kids and you pick and I pick and you pick and I pick. And a minute later, we're ready to play football in the backyard. And so when noon came and I didn't get drafted, I was like, man, what happened? And I went, I thought, well, I'm going to go work out. So I went to there was a weight room underneath the stadium. And I went there. And as I walked in, all my friends were there. And they said, "You got a phone call from somebody named Rooney." And I thought they were, I thought they were putting me on. And so I said, "Hello." And this old man goes, you know how Mr. Rooney talked like this, "John," it's only got three. I only got Jon in my name, but he could take 5 minutes just saying, "John." And I said, "Yes, sir. This is Art Rooney." I didn't know who Art Rooney was. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Calling from Pittsburgh." And I thought, all my friends are like, and I thought they had called some old man to play a trick on me. And so I was, but I didn't swear, but I was very rude to him. And at one point he said, "We're really excited to have you coming to Pittsburgh. Are you excited?" I said, "No." And so then evening comes and nobody else had called. And I thought, well, I'm going to turn on the news and watch the sports and find out where my friends went. And I'll never forget, the TV comes on and it says, "Eddie Hinton, University of Oklahoma, going to Baltimore. Terry Brown, my roommate, going to the Vikings. John Kolb going to the Steelers." I went, oh my gosh, I probably am cut already. So the next day I call Art Rooney and I'm practically in tears, because I thought I've already messed up my career, and I haven't even got there yet. And this is why I love the Rooneys. I mean, they're that way today. Their whole, I talked to Art Rooney Jr. 2 days ago because I wanted to thank him. One of my teammates is very sick with cancer. And when I called Mike, he had just gotten off the phone with Art Rooney Jr. And Art Rooney Jr. has always been the kind of guy that just cares about players. And I just wanted to call him and thank him. And he's a guy that came down to the Senior Bowl, came to the All-American game and all that stuff, and would take me out to dinner. And just, this was after the draft, and just, they just were class. Okay. And so now I've insulted Mr. Rooney and think they're going to cut me. But he just was always such a classy guy. And even when I was coaching 14, 15 years later, he would come into the coach's room because was Chuck going to throw Art Rooney out. And he would kid me about that, And so it was just I really loved the opportunity to tell people that the Steelers really were and are a family. Mike Tomlin, we were at every year they have some Super Bowl reunion or something, so they bring everybody back. And we ran into Mike Tomlin in the hotel, and he stands there the night before game. He stands there and talks to us for 5 minutes. They're just a great organization.
That's something you like to hear about an organization like that. And hey, I mean, that might be one of the major reasons why the Steelers have 6 Super Bowls and one of the best franchises.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Folks, we're here on the Zip Code with John Kolb, 4-time Super Bowl champion. Thank you to Sheetz, our sponsor. Sheetz Run and Done. John, I'm sure you've had Sheetz, John. I mean, you live in Pittsburgh. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. My son has to he has to stop there all the time. But I can't eat there because you got to type stuff into the, I don't know. You talk to your sponsors and tell them, Ken, I just get a protein bar because I can't work the computer thing.
You can't work the computer to get an MTO.
To get the food, yeah.
Well,
I
hey,
can get the gas. I know how to get the gas, but I can't get the food. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Sheets is happy that you get gas and a protein bar. That's a plus. So, folks, we're going to get on with the show. We have a bunch more questions. We will get to some of your questions. If you have any questions, feel free and type them in the chat. But we do have a bunch of different questions for John. But, John, I'm going to get to the Super Bowl run that you guys had real fast before we move on. I was looking at a list here, and I'm going to name some of the names because you're on this list. So we have Tom Brady. He has 6 Super Bowls. And then Charles Haley has 5 Super Bowls. And then we go to everybody with 4. We have Ted Hendricks, Matt Millen, Marv Fleming, Bill Romanowski, Adam Vinatieri. Then we have 6 players from the 49ers teams. And then we have 22 players from the Steelers team. And you're one of them. And anybody with more than 1 or 2 Super Bowls, it's quite a short list. And I want to start off before we dive into some of the details of some of those Super Bowls. What is one thing about those 22 guys that remain with the Steelers on those 4 Super Bowl teams that you could share with us? What was one characteristic of that team? And I'm guessing it'll probably revolve around actually being a true team.
Right. It was, again, it was a team. To me, it was a family. This weekend was kind of a tough weekend. My roommate I got to play 13 years, but 10 of those years, my roommate was Sam Davis. And he played guard, so we were roommates. And if you think about it, you're roommates for 6 to 7 weeks during training camp. And then the next 6 months, you're on your roommates Saturday night before a game. But every day in practice, I line up at left tackle. He is this far from me at left guard. But the communication that you have to have. You call a play, Terry may call 35 in the huddle, but it could be 35 trap, 35 solid, 35 cutback, 35 special. There's all kinds of different combinations. And after a while, you just, my wife and I don't even communicate that well together. You just knew what he was thinking, and I knew what he was thinking. And it was kind of a cool thing. And then on the other side of the ball, I had 2 crazy people, Ernie Holmes and Dwight White. So I played 3 games a week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then we kind of had usually an easier game on Sunday. So you just had a special group of guys that were there for one purpose. And it wasn't to discuss the national anthem. It was to play a football game. And that's what they did. And they wanted to do it together. And you talked about the rings. When I found out, this is the truth. When I found out we got a Super Bowl ring, we were in New Orleans. And this is the truth. My roommate in college, Terry Brown, the one that I told you about a while ago that went to the Vikings. So he was the best man in our wedding, my wife's wedding. But I played against him in the first Super Bowl. And so we had to sneak out because Chuck, didn't want us to fraternize with the Vikings, and Bud Grant didn't want the Vikings to talk to us. So I had to sneak out and have dinner, my family and his family. And so we'd gone to dinner, and we were walking back to the taxi place. And he says, oh, by the way, see, the Vikings had played Miami the Super Bowl the year before. And I don't know if people know this, but you get a runner-up or first loser ring, I call it. Okay. And so they had gotten beat by the Vikings the year before, so they had the first loser ring. And it's a pretty cool ring. And so Terry, he's wanting to he's kind of wanting to elbow me a little bit. And he goes, oh, by the way, let me show you the ring you guys are going to get. And I said, ring? Why would we get a ring? He says, you don't even know you get a Super Bowl ring? And I said, no, why would they give you a ring for playing in a football game? And so it took all the pop out of the joke he was trying to play. But then I go back to the hotel and I said, Sam, do you know we're going to get a ring for this? And he said, why would they give you a ring for playing in a Super Bowl game? And then so we went out and we asked some of our team. Now, one guy knew we were going to get a ring. We were down there to kick ass is what we were down. That was the purpose. And we did. And we got to do it 4 times.
So where are those 4 Super Bowl rings then?
Okay. The first one, they're all in a museum in Oklahoma. But my wife took the first one and made a necklace out of it. And she took the second one and made earrings out of it. Tanner took the third one and made a wedding ring. And you can ask Caleb where the 4th one's at.
I'm assuming he has it in his possession somewhere.
He has it in his possession. Yeah, you can ask him about that.
Wonderful. Shout out to John's son, Caleb, for getting John on the show here. Folks, we're here with John Kolb, 4-time Super Bowl champion and friend of many in Western Pennsylvania and friend of many across the country as well, but especially in Western Pennsylvania. John, we're going to get to let's talk a tad bit more about the 4 Super Bowls, and I'm going to hold this up. These are actually my father's Super Bowl programs right here. There's Super Bowl 12, and then we have Super Bowl 13. I'm sorry, and then we have Super Bowl 14 here. Yep. Look at that bad boy. So, we have you guys played in New Orleans in 1975. You beat the Vikings 16-6. Then in 76 in Miami, 21-17 versus the Cowboys. And then you guys took a 2-year break. And then you're back in 1979 in Miami for Super Bowl 13, 35-31 against the Cowboys. And then in Super Bowl 14 in LA, 1980, you guys won 31-19 versus the Rams. Now, what happened in 77 and 78? What was the delay there?
Those were some we had a really great team that year. In the interim there, I think I wouldn't trade that. I really wouldn't. That one, I can't remember which one of the years that we weren't in it, but we went to Cleveland, and you're too young to probably remember all this, but Cleveland had a defensive end named Joe Jones, Turkey Jones. And we had our right tackle got hurt, and we put Jerry Mullins, who was light to play guard, we put him at tackle. So Joe Jones comes in and sacks Terry and throws him on his neck. And Terry is out for 12 weeks. And so we are 1-4, 1 win, 4 losses. And then we have Mike Kruzak comes in, and all of a sudden everything just everybody said, well, let's just go. So we pulled it together, and I think we won whatever. We won the rest of the games. So we ended up in 4. And we played Baltimore in the first round in the playoffs and won a big game there in Baltimore. And then we got beat the next game. And but it was there's a book by Patrick Morley, and he says the process is the purpose. The goal is the relationship, and the plan is God's. And I think that was part of the process. Those 2 years, we had great teams. Some people think that they were possibly the best team, but, just injuries, little things. A lot of things have to come together, and a couple things were missing. But I think the process was that the team grew. And so not only did we win 4 and 6 years, but I think it was something like 9 years in a row that we were in the playoffs. And so those were just those 9 years just kind of blended together with the fans, the town, our team, and made a memory. I go, wow, this really happened to me. I could be still back home milking cows. Wow.
Yeah. And you guys had a heck of a run there for those 9 years. Now, we had a question come in. One Super Bowl memory, favorite Super Bowl memory.
So the 2 years that we weren't in the Super Bowl, Dallas won, And so Harvey Martin, the guy I'm playing against, was the MVP of that Super Bowl. And so they interviewed him on the Tonight Late Show. I mean, he wasn't staying up that late. I mean, they'd interviewed him and they showed it. And they asked him, now I got to play against this guy. And they said, are you going to repeat? Randy White also was the two MVPs, and they're on our side. And so they say, are you going to repeat as MVP? So, he loved, he was pumping up his Sheets card. So he, he's going to have this big game and get all these sacks and everything. And my wife's in the hotel room going, did you hear that? Did you? And I didn't need her to get me any more wired. I was already wired. I was trying to just, because you can't play a game wired. You got to play the game. I always thought football for an offensive lineman, you're more of a sniper than you are a karate guy. You got to be cool. You got to listen. You got to make adjustments. And so she was like wrecking everything. And so it was really good, playing the game, being able to shut him out. I say this humbly. I hope it's humbly. I got to play 4 Super Bowls, never gave up a sack in the Super Bowl. And those are, up until this point here, I just kind of kept that as my own little proud thing, But, we had guys, Franco Rush said that time set a rushing record in the first Super Bowl, and Terry was throwing the ball over the place. But we had a lot of great players. Jerry Mullins ran some traps, blocks. Sam Davis, some trap blocks. Larry Brown was our other tackle. We had some linemen that just did some awesome stuff.
Yeah, folks are here with John Kolb, 4-time Super Bowl champion. Went to Oklahoma State, was an All-American at Oklahoma State as well, played center there, then played tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was Terry Bradshaw's, was on Terry Bradshaw's blind side, so you guys, football fans, know how important that is. Thank you to Sheets. John, let's switch gears a little bit here. I want to talk about you and the world's strongest man competitions. So I see here that in 1978 and in 1979, and now this is from the interwebs, John. So it's saying that you took 4th place in both of those competitions. Now I want to ask you this: number one, who approached you to be in those competitions, and then number two, I want to hear maybe a quick story about why you were 4th place in both of those events.
Well, the guy Terry Todd was one of the he was the kind of the creator, like they have these reality shows today, and he was kind of the creator of this, and he had a PhD in exercise science. He taught exercise science at Auburn, and he had a guy there, Bill Kazmaier, he won the world's strongest man for several years, and so he they at that time they tried to get a couple professional wrestlers, a couple power lifters, a couple Olympic lifters, and then they got a couple football players. So it was really neat, and I think I think the thing I for me is he did a good job. I remember Bill Kazmaier squatted 1,000 pounds in the squat, and I squatted 700, which I thought was pretty good, but I got beat by 300 in the squat. So, but they had enough events where there were, you needed to have speed or maybe grip strength or something. Some of those guys, their hand was so fat, so thick, they couldn't grab whatever they needed to grab. And it was kind of fun too. The guy that was, we threw a telephone pole. Now they call it a caber. To me, it's a telephone pole. And the world champion from England was there. And he kept telling me, you're not doing that right. Well, my last throw, I beat him by about 2 feet. And he goes, well, you still didn't do it right. And I went, I'm not usually a smart ass, but I said, well, I beat you. So it was that kind of stuff. It was, it was fun. It was in California. You had 3 or 4 events each day. There were 10 events. So it was kind of protracted out. And at night, we would all eat dinner together. I think I can eat a lot. So I never forget the waitress would come up and they would order something from the steak menu, the chicken menu, the pasta menu. I mean, they would order 4. The average weight the first year was 346, and the average weight the second year was 363, and I weighed 254. So they brought both. They were big.
Muscle and
Muscle,
girth as
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you were 6'2", around 260. It says, a lot of your playing days. I'm like, you beat Bill Casimir though in some of the events, didn't you?
yeah, that was kind of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun. One of the guys, Don Reinhout, who ended up I think won it the second year I was in it, and Bill Casimir came down to the last event, and so Don Reinhout, my buddy, there was a tug of war. So there were 4 of us left, and I went against somebody. I think Joe Doobie, who was my hero. He was the Olympic bronze medalist in the Olympic Games, and I beat him. And then, but Don got beat. So I'm supposed to go against Casimir in the final. And, it's kind of, I've been to a few coin tosses. So Kaz is there and he's trying to give me that look thing, like you do before a boxing match or something. Like, I don't get it. So anyway, it was kind of cool. He was huge and big, but you got to be able to stand up. So I pulled a little bit, he pulled a little bit, I pulled a little bit, he pulled a little bit. I pulled, and when he pulled, I let loose. He falls down, and I pulled him over the line. It was kind of cool, So he needed to practice more on his look than his technique.
And I believe, if I am correct, there are maybe just like a few YouTube clips of some of those events that you participated in, I believe.
Yeah, people, they are. And, every month somebody will come by and say, I saw you on the World's Strongest Man throwing a telephone pole. Or one of the events, they had a refrigerator or something tied to a rope and you had to pull it up. They come up with all kinds of goofy things.
Folks are here with John Kolb on the Zip Code. Thank you to Sheets.
Me too.
So, let's see, John. Let's get to some of these questions here. I'm gonna, excuse me. This was sent in by a viewer. It says toughest defensive lineman to block.
That's kind of neat. If you have a couple minutes, I think a lot of people think that. I still hear high school coaches say, "You got to get mean. You got to get mad. You got to, I don't think you can play football very well like that. I got invited to which was really one of the highlights of my career, to a USO tour. So we, after one of the Super Bowls, we toured. I was in Japan, Korea, Okinawa, the Philippines, Taiwan, the Far East, and it was really neat. So I was gone for a month. And my roommate during that time was Joe Klecko, who was the defensive end for the Jets. And we had played against each other the year before. He actually competed in the NFL Strongman with me. Joe in the NFL Strongman overhead pressed 250 20-some times. So I mean, what? And so we got to be friends. We went on vacation together with our families. His little boy was built like Joe. Him and my son Tanner were jumping on the bed and broke the bed. They sunk it. I thought it was going to go through the first floor down to the second. But we played each other, towards the end of the year, we were 12-2. The Jets were 2-12. And some reporter found out I had not given up a sack that year. And so Joe had 21 games in a row where he had at least one sack going back to the year before. So we're 12-2, they're 2-12. And so really the game was, everybody was kind of a given, but the sack thing wasn't. And so all week I'm like, I mean, I can't even explain, because I didn't want to give up that sack. So Terry Bradshaw was having a field day. He's throwing the ball all over the place, and I'm in the huddle. You don't talk in the huddle. I'm going under my breath and going, run the football, give the ball to Franco. But Terry just keeps throwing it, and I think he had 250 yards first half. Everybody's having fun, but me, I've got this guy that can take 250 pounds and do it 20 times over his head, So finally, it's 2 minutes left in the ball game, and Terry's still throwing the football, and he wants to get the sack, and I don't want to give up a sack, and so finally, Joe comes off the ball really low. He gets underneath me, and he picks me up, and I'm up in the air, and instinctively, you want to break down. So when I went to bend down, it was like an airplane picking up its landing gear. I didn't squat down because I'm up in the air, and he takes me back. Thank God Terry throws the ball, and he dumps me on Terry just after he throws the ball. So I didn't give up the sack, but I gave up the hit. And I'm looking at Terry face to face like this, and I said, run. And I had a little explanation there. Run the football. So in the last 2 minutes, he gave it to Franco, and so that's the way it ended up.
I like it. I like how the story ends, though. You didn't give up a sack, but after Terry throws the football, you fall on him anyways. So there you go.
Yeah. As I was getting up, we were like that far apart, and offensive linemen, we never. Sometimes Terry. You see him on TV. He's like, and what do you want to run? And Terry just called play. Just relax and call play.
So let's get to
so I never said anything except that time. I said, run the football. Give it to Franco.
Let's get to another question. One was sent in. It said, what was the most difficult thing about life after your NFL career?
That's a really good question. I think we've had a lot of levity here. I hope people enjoy this. There's a lot of, and this is part of what I get to do. The suicide rate for former NFL players is 7 times the national average, according to the book Tony Dungy wrote about. And Tony and I were roommates when I was coaching for the Steelers. And I think what happens is what is your identity? Who are you? And so many guys, when they're not playing anymore, their identity's gone, and they cannot find something that takes the place of that. I remember we were in Nebraska, and we walked into a restaurant, and Caleb was wrestling for the University of Nebraska, and it was kind of neat. It's kind of funny to me because the people, as we walked by a table, I could hear them whisper, "That's Caleb Kolb." And I thought that was kind of neat because, you in Pittsburgh, you go into a restaurant and you kind of hear my name. And I thought that was how refreshing that people were saying that about Caleb. I think a lot of guys sort of need that. They need that. And so for me, I had spent my whole time. I remember in the 6th grade, I started running track. By the way, I remember you running 400 meters in Hermitage uh, at a track meet. And I think you were in the 5th or 6th grade. And so look here we are. But
Here we are.
So from that time, my life was invested in how do I run faster? How do I jump higher? How do I get stronger? And it was a fun thing. And then it's one. I mean, if you're a computer person or whatever, you don't hit 35, and all of a sudden they tell you, or you kind of sense that you've lost your skills. You can still do a computer, but as hard as you try, eventually, and it's really not the skills as much as it is. I think God builds us with a certain amount of collisions, and by the age of 35, I'd used all my collisions up, and then you got to find something else, and that took me a while, because I needed something. I have it right now. What I'm getting to do right now is more exciting than anything I've ever done. It's a bigger challenge, but I think we need that same type of challenge. Maybe it's the fix. I don't know. The accomplishment, the overcoming something, to be able to do that. It didn't happen right away. I had 2 or 3 things I tried, and I hated it and didn't know how to get out of it. It took me several years to go back. I went back to school, got my master's in exercise science. So figuring that out was a real struggle after football. And I think for a lot of guys it is.
Yeah, in just a few minutes, we'll talk about what you're doing now with Adventures in Training with a Purpose. Let me ask you a couple more questions, then we'll get to the rapid fire round. Then we'll wrap up with what you're doing now. One question was biggest difference between an offensive lineman back in the 70s versus an offensive lineman in today's day and age.
Body fat and speed. You can render these guys down today, and you can get a lot of pork there. So what's the average guy weigh today? Weigh 300 pounds. Seriously, they're over 300 pounds. They're much taller. I'm prejudiced. Larry Brown ran a 4.640. Jerry Mullins ran a 4.740. Steve Corson ran a 4.640. Sam Davis ran a 4.740. I ran a 4.6540. Those are running back time. Those are fullback times, and that's what our offensive linemen. We ran fast, and so we ran a lot of traps. Our blocking schemes were a lot of crisscross angle stuff where we pulled, and we were good at it. And I think one of my favorite years was the year of Franco and Rocky. Franco had 1,700 yards, and Rocky went over 1,000 in the last game. So when you've got 2 running backs that are rushing for 2,500 yards, and Terry's throwing the ball, we could pass protect. And again, we did not pass protect because we were big and somebody had to run around us. We could pass protect because we could move and stay in front of people. Our technique was emphasized much differently. Today, watch the linemen. They like zone blocks. I like zone blocks too. But today, they will step backwards on a zone play with their outside foot to go forwards. And we say, how come they can't make that first down when it's 3rd and 1? Because they're stepping backwards on the first step. That's just, I hope they're watching. That's insane. Okay.
I hope they are
it's
too.
Bad, it's bad biomechanics. I got some books here that tell you don't do it that way.
Hey, maybe after this interview, John, we're gonna get some teams that'll call your direct line.
Okay.
And you're gonna give them some training.
Yeah. Well, people watching next game, you watch when they run that outside zone, they step the outside foot, they step back, and you can't do that because you lose the line of scrimmage. And so we would get hollered at if Franco got hit before he gained 5 yards. We want to move people off the line of scrimmage. I remember who was it, Le'Veon Bell, the announcers always going, oh, he's patient. Sometimes I go, no, he ain't patient. He ain't got anywhere to run. and so he's got to pick the hole. So, I mean, I love the Steelers, but you can't. You ask me what the difference is: technique and size.
Now, do you still watch a decent amount of football, John, or you don't watch that much anymore?
I like to watch it if I'm like with friends and stuff, and just kind of having a nice evening. But I get very frustrated watching the way they play. With the technique thing today. Football to me is very interesting. I could practice golf forever. I'm not going to. You can't hit the ball. It'll always slice. I'll do everything you tell me. But football is a game. It's not a country club sport. Wrestling is not a country club sport. Those are sports that if you want to be hard-nosed and play in Pittsburgh and have Pittsburgh people root for you, then, I mean, look at the results, what's happened in Pittsburgh.
You're right. Now, John, I want to spend two more minutes on this segment, and that's it because we got to move. But I do want to get to these people's questions. One is there a player in the NFL now that you see yourself in even a little bit?
The guy that I don't see myself in, but I just James Conner. Look what he's overcome. I think we had a lot. Rocky Blyer's an overcomer. I saw the scars on his leg, on his foot, what he overcome. And today you have James Conner that's done the same thing. And I've met him on 2 occasions. Humble young man. So I guess that would be the player. Anytime I've ever met the McDonald, humble. I mean, they do. A little while ago I was critical of technique, but the Steelers are still those classy, no compromise kind of guys in my mind. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm gonna rush this story because we did have somebody that wanted you to tell it, but it says, can you tell the Joe Green training camp / rookie flight song story? Are you able to tell us that in about 1 minute and 30 seconds?
Yeah, I can do it in a minute. My senior year in college, there was a movie called The Paper Lion, and it was about a writer that thought he would just go to training camp, sports writer, and be a quarterback for the Detroit Lions, this Paper Lion. And so they made rookies sing. And so I saw that. I was in college, and I thought, okay, this is not good. What am I going to do if I get drafted and they go to training camp and they want me to sing? And I started to worry about that. I mean, it really consumed me. And so sure enough, I go to training camp, and Bruce Van Dyke wanted me to sing. You're supposed to get up and stand in a chair, put your hand over your heart, and sing your school song. And everybody laughs. And I guess it's fun, but I don't want to sing. And so I remember Bruce said, John, get up in your chair and sing. And I said, no. And everybody's eating, and all of a sudden they went, because nobody ever done that before. And so for about 3 or 4 days, my life in practice was really hard because they would blow a whistle, but the whistle didn't apply to me. So it was, I'm thinking, how much can I take of this? But I still thought, no, I'm not singing. And so Joe had held out because he was Joe Green had held out because he was the number 1 draft choice. He comes into camp, and so somebody, I don't remember who it was, we're eating dinner. Joe's in camp the first night, and they said, Joe, sing. And everybody's going like, Joe, sing, sing. Joe puts his fork down, he looks around, he stands up like he's going to sing, and then he says, which one of you, 2 swear words, are going to make me sing? Everybody picked up their fork and started eating. And as far as I know, not one rookie has ever sang after that. I still don't think they sing. And thanks to Joe Green, nobody just,
So if any player from the Pittsburgh Steelers knows that they don't have to sing, they can thank your class of
They can
1969.
thank my class, Joe Green. Yep.
Folks, we're here with John Kolb on the Zip Code. Thank you to Sheets. John, I'm going to switch gears to the rapid fire round. Then we're going to get to Adventures in Training with a Purpose. I am going to ask you this really quick. It's a yes or no question. Did you witness the immaculate reception with Franco? Did you actually see with your own eyes, or didn't you know what happened?
I set it up. That play never worked one time in practice. I know I'm supposed to say it didn't work. And when he called that, I knew it wasn't going to work. Everybody knew it was not going to work. So what I had to do was let my guy inside just a little bit. If you watch it, then Terry, because I let my guy inside, Terry steps to the right. It gave Franco time to get down the field so that he could catch the ricochet. And they put a statue of Franco in the airport by George Washington, and I set the play up.
You know what? I'm gonna write to the Pittsburgh International Airport. We need to do something about that.
Yes, yeah.
All right. So, John, the next portion of the show is the rapid fire round. I got about 15 questions I'm going to ask you. Just they're yes or no, or answer as fast as you possibly can. They're very safe questions. So here we go. Rapid fire on the Zip Code with John Kolb. Here we go. One word your teammates would use to describe you.
I never talk. One word. Silent. Silent.
Leg day, arm day, or total body day?
Total.
How do you like your eggs?
Cooked.
Favorite type of music?
CMW.
Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Definitely breakfast.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
On average, how many hours of sleep do you get per night?
7.
Books or movies?
Books.
Country living or city living?
Oh. Country. Give me some space. Yes.
Car or truck?
Ford F-150. I'm not doing a commercial, but I still got to have my truck.
Favorite vacation spot?
Colorado, Montana, and British Columbia.
Name one of your hobbies.
You know what I love to do? We're going this weekend, rock climbing.
Name one sport you're bad at.
Golf.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
On average, how many hours of TV do you watch per day? 0. Favorite holiday?
You know what? This sounds selfish. My birthday, I just had a birthday a couple weeks ago. My family, I don't know why, but I get to do whatever I want to. We go out, we do all kinds of fun stuff for my birthday. It's not a holiday, but my family treats me like the kids are all there. We go on picnics and do. I love that. I love that.
It's a holiday now. John Kolb's
It
birthday
is
is a holiday now.
Yeah.
Childhood hero?
Davy Crockett.
Elevator or stairs?
Stairs.
Last time you had fast food?
My wife stopped at Panda something. We would have
Panda Express.
stopped at Sheets, but I couldn't work the thing.
If you could go back to one moment in your football career, high school, college, or pro, what would it be?
Oh, my. Boy, that's a good question. I don't know. I wished somehow we could enjoy what happened. You know, it happened so fast and it was gone. Franco does a great job every year. Like if it's he finds some excuse to get everybody together. Immaculate reception or Super Bowl, Christmas time. He has everybody get up and sing carols together. Nobody can sing, but if I could go back in time, I think just to enjoy that. I remember playing on my last football game. We played in Houston, and Joe Green sat down beside me and said, "Is that it for you?" And I said, "Yeah." "Is that it for you?" And he said, "Yeah." And we were 35 and 36 years old. And we just kind of sat there. We didn't weep, but it was just kind of to just revel in it a little better than have your motor going all the time.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Two more questions. Last time you signed an autograph?
Oh, last week. People still send me. Can you believe people still? That's just was just here. People still send me stuff. That's Pittsburgh for you.
Now, here's the last question for you on this segment. Where will this show be in 5 years? Where will the zip code be in 5 years, John?
That's a great question, Sean. I've mentioned a couple times. You and I had this discussion. You may not remember. And I remember you talking to me, and your dad was wanting you to kind of take over and be horticulture like him. And you weren't wanting to do that. And you used the word entrepreneurial. I can't even say it. So I'm not an entrepreneur. And I'm proud of you. You did it. You did it your way. And good for you. I love your dad, your mom, but you did it.
Hey, we'll see where this show takes off, John. We'll see where this show takes off. We got 4 minutes, and I want to get to one of the most important parts. So after you're done with your football career, you go and you're the strength and conditioning coach for the Steelers. You go back to school, and now you're teaching exercise science and different things at YSU, Butler County Community College. You were at Pistons for a while. You were changing the game. You had people under you at Pistons that learned a ton, such as Joe Moss, Kyle Piper, these different guys. Shout out to all those guys for what they did there for the Shenango Valley and the way that you thought. You're a mastermind of the body. I want to know right now, Adventures in Training with a Purpose, and we got about 3.5 minutes, John. Adventures in Training with a Purpose, a Christian nonprofit organization. You guys work with a lot of people that are really trying to achieve their goals that may have some sort of physical problem at the moment. Give me 3 minutes about what you're doing now, John.
Yeah. So our country, from a medical standpoint, is upside down or inside out or backwards, or all of them, I think. Healthcare is run by insurance today. People can have very desperate need of surgery for cancer, but they have to get approval from their insurance company. That's bullshit. And it's unfortunate. And it shouldn't be that way. And so I saw that when I was working in, not only at Pistons, but for Sharon Regional and for another doctor's office before that. And so what it kind of came down to is I thought we had a chance, and we are, to make a difference in that. So Adventures in Training with a Purpose, we chose those names very carefully because adventure means I don't know how it's going to turn out, just like kind of like a game. Training is different than therapy because training is about function. It's about being able to play the game, what we were talking about for the last 40 minutes. And so purpose means why I'm doing it. In our emblem, we got a guy climbing the mountain, and everybody has a mountain to climb. And it's taken from Psalm 121, which says, I'll lift up my eyes to the mountain. Where's my help coming from? And so we have people that have exhausted their insurance. And with this COVID, we're getting more and more people with mental depression and stuff like that. Tim Murphy, a psychologist, we're working out of his office. And so Adventures in Training with a Purpose really helps people that have exhausted insurance. They have nowhere to turn, but they have physical, emotional, Parkinson's, MS, paralysis, stroke, and insurance is gone. And where are they going to go?
Right. So I'm gonna read the statement because we got 30 seconds left. But yeah, in a nutshell, a Christian nonprofit organization focused on helping those most in need to improve their quality of life through an adventure of purposeful physical training. John, thank you for coming on the Zip Code. We appreciate you. The Shenango Valley appreciates you. You're a man of God. We appreciate your family. Thank you for coming on the Zip Code. We hope you'll be a friend of the show. I'd love to do a part 2 at some point. We could really dive into the things you're doing with ATP. We can dive into some more of those things. We got all the football stuff out of the way. We can go to part 2 now.
Yeah.
So, folks, thanks for tuning in. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, Adventures in Training with a Purpose. Love you, Shenango Valley. John, I hope you'll be a friend of the show. We'll talk to you soon.